Yeah.
Okay, my guy just showed up. Tony Tarantino. Tony,
Yes,
welcome
sir.
to Phoenix, Arizona,
Thank you, sir. It's my
and
pleasure.
pleasure meeting you. And I've heard a lot of great things about you. And thank you for coming here to. Maybe I can help you out.
That would be good. You know, my
And,
film Prism is based on true story. All of it took place here in Arizona, mostly out of Tucson and Nogales. The Drug Task Force unit was established in Tucson, and all the characters were real people. The events did happen. It's about one of your undercover detectives that did, in fact, infiltrate the Sonora cartel and did, in fact, get into the inner circle of El Chapo Guzman.
you know, I was a director in Mexico City, South America, for the DEA, plus Texas, plus Arizona. Won't go into Turkey, but I have 35 years I've been fighting the border, and 24 as the sheriff. So this really hits me, but what I really like what you're trying to do is to give money back to those that have been wounded, our fallen officers fighting not just the drug traffic.
Yeah, and that's
but the
just
crime.
not a publicity gimmick. On that, let me tell you the truth about that. I'm from New York. So's Donald Trump. Trump supports strongly law enforcement. I have 4 cousins, NYPD. 2 on my father's side, both made it to retirement. One a lieutenant horseback cop, Johnny Massaro. A second one, Lieutenant Detective Anthony Massaro. 2 on my mother's side, Frank Gucciani, an officer, had his back broke during the Columbia riots in 4 places, is a paraplegic to this day. And a second officer, Daniel Greer, killed on duty. I grew up with these people and these kids, and I saw what it was like for them growing up, not knowing, not understanding. And when Quentin came out and said all the stuff that he said on the, what was it? Was it August?
The 24th
Yeah,
of August.
and he came out there and called all cops murderers. That just infuriated me, and that's what started me on this track toward doing what I'm doing. You know, and he hurt, in my opinion, my family name. My dad and I started Tarantino Productions in 1958, 5 years before the kid was even born. And to see him turn around and go against our own family like that, it just tore me up inside, and I had to do something about it. Then somebody said something, and we got talking about wounded, disabled, and deceased officers. And so I said, look, I've got this film coming out. Why don't we do something to help these people? So I pledged 10% of the net profits to these officers and their families, not to go to any administration. The administration is run through me. The attorney's fees, the accountant's fees are paid by me, not by, out of that fund that I pledged. And that's to help these people with medical bills, hard payments, whether it be houses, homes, whatever. And we will do that.
Well, this touches me because even in this organization, we have volunteer posses, advisory posse, a memorial fund where they raise millions of dollars, and we give the money to those officers in the whole state that have been wounded or killed. So we want to connect with each other, hope that you're successful in that movie. I guess maybe at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, no, it'll start as soon as the box office income starts. Our financial advisors tell us that we should do a gross of about 300 million. Out of that, 50% of it comes to my production company, and out of that 50%, I pledge 10% of that, which would be 15 million to wounded,
Well,
disabled.
we want a part of that in Arizona. This is a dangerous state. I've been endorsed by 5 law enforcement agencies with thousands and thousands and thousands of members, and this would be great to be able to help them too, all the officers.
This
I really
will
appreciate
go
it.
for officers across all 50 states, wherever it's needed.
That's good.
All right, nobody is left out, including Border Patrol.
Very good, because they're on the front lines.
That's it, exactly.
So thank you for including the Border Patrol.
And my film takes in the events of Fast and Furious and the killing of Agent Terry.
Now, I'm going to say something, and I don't know how to do this. My mother and father came from Italy like yours, and the Italian family is well-knit.
Right.
So I'm going to have to say some things about your son, which I don't like to do, but I hope you forgive me. But I'm a little angry at your son. Actually, I like his movies. Okay? Let's get that on the table. I like his movies, but I don't like his conduct.
Neither do
I don't like him calling cops murderers.
Right.
That's not right.
You know, I was in the Marine Corps, and one thing I learned in the Marine Corps, real quick, shoot first and ask questions later. If you've got enemy in front of you and you don't know who's who, it's you or them. I don't feel you really have the time. A split second can be a lifetime, especially when it comes to a gunfight. I've been in them. I understand
You
that.
see, he was talking about minority people that have been killed. Okay.
He
by
mentioned
police.
one that was shot by police, and it wasn't mentioned that this person was armed, even though the weapon was not real.
Yeah, I think you mentioned 5 people. I call them all minorities. I'm not going down into the list. But he went to a police brutality rally, a reform group. Remember that? Rise Up October?
Yeah, Rise Up October.
I think
That's
that
what
was
I'm talking
October
about.
24th.
Yeah, that was promoted. Now, here's a neat, interesting thing. A lot of people don't really know. Black Lives Matter is what promoted that.
Yes.
Black Lives Matters was created by the name of a man. What was it? Richard Cox. Richard Cox was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Refused to go to Vietnam when ordered. Was tried, court-martialed, dishonorably discharged, and spent several years in federal penitentiary for direct disobedience to these orders. Comes out, creates the organization Black Lives Matter, and they're promoting kill cops.
Yeah, we know that, don't we?
All right, and
It's sickening.
Yeah. As far as, the law is an important thing, and as far as I'm concerned, it should be the same for everybody. On one TV interview, when asked about that, I said, as far as I'm concerned, we are all Americans. We should not be labeled. We should not be split up into groups. You want to divide and conquer, and that's what generally happens. The law should be the same for everybody, regardless of race, religion, or anything else. But apparently it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, but your son is a great movie director. A lot of people watch
He's
his
a phenomenally talented
films, and
individual.
a lot of people
yeah.
listen to him. And what really makes me angry is because 3 days before he held that rally, whatever, a demonstration, do you know if a New York cop was killed?
Yes.
3 days before.
3 days before.
Why
correct.
isn't he talking about the cop that was killed? Why is he talking about saying that the cops killing everybody? Why did he mention that person?
It's really a hard one to explain. I don't really understand myself, but I know that he's very strong toward the minorities, particularly black people. All of his films always promote that. He shows that. And he really wants their support for his films and what his work is. So he kind of, in my opinion, has gone bent over backwards to appease this particular group of people.
You know, that's great. I just saw him on a movie he made, The Eight or something.
Oh, yeah.
Direct
Hateful
TV.
Eight.
Who you think the star was?
Michael Jackson. And
No,
look what
no.
Michael Jackson has come out
Is that
and
his
done.
name too? Michael Jackson? The
Michael
black
Jackson,
guy.
yeah.
The Western.
Yeah, and but
He
you
did
s-
a
you
good
see
show.
what Jackson just did? He come out and denounced, again, agreeing with all cops are killers. And
He
then,
did?
Yes, and made a statement saying that if Donald Trump got elected president, he'd leave the country. And I sent him a note and says, let me know. I'll be glad to give you a first-class ticket out of town.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
the police unions in Philly,
Yeah,
L.A.,
yeah,
NYPD
yeah.
is asking everybody to boycott your son's movie. You
That's
do know
already
that.
been done. That's
You do
already been
know
done.
that.
The film's been released. I was invited to the premiere, refused to go. That has hurt the overall box office of that film tremendously. They've got over $80 million invested in that film. They have not made enough to recoup the investment. I think they've got a 140, 150 million already coming in.
I saw it on DirecTV.
Yeah.
I can't get out for secure to see
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, and that's a
But-
shame.
But let me tell you, you brought up something at the beginning. There's a war on cops.
That's correct.
Don't just blame your son. What about the president? What about Holder? Okay?
Good on-
They're setting examples too. I worry about when they see your son speaking and others that people will start shooting cops even more and more.
Yeah.
Sends a message. That's what's bad.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so,
Louis Farrakhan came out and called on 10,000 volunteers, and that's on Facebook. Anybody can find it.
Yeah.
Called on
So
10,000
I know these
volunteers
guys are probably.
to kill.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send. You ever talk to your son?
no,
How can I get to him? Is there any way I can get to him?
that way.
Okay. You guys got. I'm gonna send a message to Quentin Tarantino. I want him to come here with me, and we're gonna go out, and we're gonna be in a squad car, patrol car,
Right.
and we're going to do a little on-duty action.
Right. They offered that in New York.
Well, that's New York.
Yeah.
This is the sheriff. I'm sure he heard of me.
Yeah.
I'm a little different. So we are going to get in the car. He can even bring his camera and film it. He can film whatever we come across, okay? See if he's got the guts to come down here, ride with the sheriff, and see what it's really like on the streets. Not make a movie, but see what it's like. You think he'll take me up on
No.
that? Why?
No.
Want to bet on that?
Sure, you name it.
What?
I said, you bet.
If I say I'll star in his movie, he'll be here tomorrow.
I don't know.
But that's I got to let him know. He's got to be with us, see what it's like, convert him. And the family, he has cousins. You have all the, how can you do this? Being Italian, you got to stick by the cops in your family anyway. I'm just being, but you know how it is, Tony. So, I don't know, but I really have to thank you over and over again, first of all, for your support of the police, and I know that the son, I can understand that, but also to donate money to our police officers that need money when they're wounded or they're killed. I want to thank you. You're a hero. You know that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of my own family, and I saw what they went through. And when I have the means to do it, I'm more than glad to.
Well, we're going to do everything we can in this office to help you make that movie work. And you better come up with your promise. First of all, you better make a profit, okay? It's probably a good movie. I said probably because I haven't seen it. And number two, you're going to have to come up, and you will. You'll come up. You'll try the best you can. But, just the idea, just a promise that you want to do something, especially who your son is, that means millions and millions of dollars. Because you're kind of sticking your neck out a little.
And I also come up with a second idea with that. We plan on all the theater. We have already a distribution contract for this film.
Good.
We have 3,000 screens across the U.S. We have 6,000 more international. And we're trying, with the screens in the U.S., for each of them at their theater to have a big donation box toward police benevolence. And whatever goes into those donation box goes to that local authority.
Well, I have to thank you again. What's Trump? I'm with him all the time, and every time I'm with him, he talks about how and I believe him 100%, how he talks about the cops, and the veteran. I joined the Army when the Korean War broke out.
Yeah, I know, I read that. You're a sergeant in the Army.
So the veterans and the cops.
Yeah.
He talks about
Yeah.
over and over.
I've been a strong supporter of Trump's, mainly for several reasons. I could care less about political correctness. I do not consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. Right. I could care less about either two parties. I believe in what Thomas Jefferson said. We should have a political revolution every 50 years, kick out every politician and start fresh. The thing that I like about Trump is that he is a non-politician. He's rubbed a lot of feathers the wrong way. He speaks not in strong positive ways. Those are his faults. But his ideas about bringing the nation back together, it would, and I know it would destroy the political system as such, the GOP or the Democrats, either one of them, because they've got it made. What's going on in politics, to me, is about power and corruption. You have more political corruption going than what you have in your tent city. If people would really take a look at it. I've seen all kinds of media news saying they want to investigate this, investigate that, but nobody ever does anything. Why? It'll upset the system. And Trump would come in and do exactly that, and that's what the system needs. I have voted for both Democrat, I have voted for Republican. I vote for who I think would be the best person for the job. And in this case, I think the best person for this job would be Trump, because you have to really be over the top in order to get a little bit done.
What's your son? Democrat, Republican?
Are you kidding? He's a bleeding heart liberal.
A what?
He's a bleeding heart liberal.
What is that, a Democrat?
Yeah, well, what else?
We're going to convert him.
Good luck.
Why do you keep saying that? You don't think I can do things?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. This kid, he's sitting on over $100 million.
$100 million. You ought to give 10%. I'll tell you what. Tell him to give it, and then we'll forgive him. Give us 10%.
He drives an old beat-up car. His girlfriend refused to ride with him in his car because she didn't like it. He probably got the first dime he ever earned.
Is he married?
No.
Excuse me, guys, can we stay on tech? The profits here, the movies. Can you guys just give a statement, each one of you?
The profits?
No, just on why you're here, just a quick statement.
Oh, is he, because we're rambling on.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, my reason for coming here was because of this man's stance politically. And because he came out, here, let me show you. In fact, I just had this made up, and I got a big kick out of it, all right? This was a photograph by Associated Press of Donald Trump and Sheriff Joe here together. And my team called Trump the Terminator. And I thought that was kind of funny. So I had this made up to show that. And this is really true, especially where it says, don't mess with us. And in my opinion, that's what we need. We need some strict law enforcement. You know, the law needs to be enforced. It needs to be the same for everybody. I just read a big article about the immigration laws of Mexico. And they are so tough and almost unbelievable. You'd have to really see it. And yet, in our country, I just spoke with the head of Border Patrol, and they told me that they watch illegals come across the river soaking wet, and they have to ask them a few questions. One, are you a felon? You ever been convicted of a felony in Mexico? And they say no. And then they say, how long have you been in this country? And they automatically say, since January of 2013, and they can't arrest them. They can't send them back. That is so crazy. It's unreal. I don't care what the hell country you're from. You're welcome here. You do it legally. You know, my parents, my people, took them 5 years to get their citizenship and all that they had to go through to make it legally. And now they're turning around and saying you can't arrest illegal immigrants, and that is not a bias or a prejudice toward any group or any race.
Does that have something to do with the movie that you're making?
Yes, it has a lot to do with it. My movie is based on a true story about an undercover detective right here out of Arizona that infiltrated the Sonora drug cartel, got into the inner circle of El Chapo Guzman. The characters were real people, and the events really did happen, with a little creative liberty that I took to make the film more exciting. But yeah, it has a lot to do with it. And this man has more experience in those areas than anybody else I know. And that's why I wanted to talk to him. I offered him a technical advisor position on the film, and he says, I'll think about it.
Only if I'm the starring role in it. What is this technical stuff? So, but let me see first of all, I have to thank Tony for donating proceeds from his movie, which I hope is successful, to the fallen officers, to officers that are killed, not only here in Arizona, but across the nation.
Across every 50 state. And it would help with disabled officers. It would help with medical bills. It would help with mortgage payments if necessary. It would help with school tuition for kids if necessary.
So that was one reason. The other reason, I once again hate to say this, even if you were here, had nothing to do with this, I would still talk about your son. And
Wow.
Well, quite frankly, this is a vehicle for me to talk about your son. It's not a vehicle to talk about Trump. I didn't know you were bringing this. But the point is, I'm a little sad about your son's conduct.
We got to kind of thank him. Really.
I know, he's
Seriously.
opened the door.
If he didn't do what he did, I wouldn't have been put in a position to where I figured out and made this pledge. Because I would have never thought twice about it until he shot off his fat mouth saying all cops are killers, and that just infuriated.
But I'm not blaming him altogether. You have a president of the United States to set the tempo, and the former Attorney General Holder,
Right.
to set the tempo to go after cops. They should be defending the law enforcement. They took away my tank, my equipment that I was using to help the citizens. I'm not going to get into all the politics, but that tempo was set before your son ever got involved in this, okay? So let's give him a little leeway here. And unfortunately, there's many more that feel like your son. But you're doing a great service by backing up the law enforcement. Thank you for that.
And you're very welcome. It's my pleasure, sincerely.
Thank you, Tony.
All right.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for coming. Sorry you dragged out a little, but that's what Italians are. When you get together, you're lucky you're done in 5 hours, right?